not being PvP'd! You there! Heal me, please! This one guy keeps chasing me! Protect me, please! Here he comes! Derek! Do not look at him.
Don't mind if I do.
I will handle this, says confidently as he draws his Demon Obliterator 5 million. We are proud to present our newest 6-month subscription mount, but what about the bots?
Also, please enjoy our newest anniversary special so you can keep special.
More than 15 years ago, I visited one of my first internet cafes. As I took a peek at what people were playing, my attention was fixated on one specific game. That game was Warcraft 3. Everything about it just seemed to excite me. The art style, the gameplay, the graphics, the visuals, the story, the setting. And when I did sit down to try it as well, goddamn, I was having an absolute blast. And the masterminds behind it? Blizzard Entertainment. A video game company that would soon become my absolute favorite in the industry. But little did I know, there was already something even more exciting already on the market. And that of course was World of Warcraft. And look, maybe it's biased, but I firmly believe that at its peak, World of Warcraft could provide you with the absolute best gaming experience ever. Full stop, it wasn't even close. But for the time being, I knew I found a game that I could sink my teeth in and waste God knows how many years into it. But if at that very moment, an entity from the future traveled back in time to tell me I'd eventually be torn between continuing to create videos for that game I once loved and the growing frustration I had towards it and its developers while crippling burnout set in, then I'd be a little disturbed, but also I would have had a hard time believing it. After finding out World of Warcraft was a thing, I knew I had to play it as soon as possible. I couldn't contain myself any longer, okay? But tragedy. I found out you had to pay for it. You had to pay for it a lot. So of course I decided to ask my parents if they'd buy it for me. They didn't even know what a video game was. And here I am asking for 30 bucks an extra every month. Yeah, not happening. Therefore, I was condemned to play random free-to-play MMOs for years. Until I found out World of Warcraft private servers were a thing. Which meant that I could finally try the actual game out. And wow. It was everything I hoped it would be. And then some. I started off with Wrath of the Lich King. It was all put together perfectly. You got to immerse yourself in the whole Warcraft universe as one sole chump, where you could practically go anywhere and do anything. So many places to explore, so much satisfying progression to be had, and so many people to interact with, as it is an MMORPG. To truly glaze WoW's strengths though, I'll probably have to make a whole separate video on the topic. But my love for WoW continued to only grow. It quickly began to absorb my day-to-day life. As I was thinking about it, as I went to bed, when I was in class, I'd explain its lore to my friends who had no idea what I was even talking about. And when we'd be given English writing assignments in school, I remember I wrote at least a couple about Blizzard. They were just that awesome to me. Not only with WoW, but the more attention I paid to them made me realize that these guys were cooking non-stop. And just seemed like very passionate nerds who wanted to provide reasons for other nerds to be excited about. Every game they released, it was the best game of that genre. Well, I guess until Heroes of the Storm, which I actually liked at the start. And so eventually it was time to decide what the hell am I supposed to do with my life. The classic struggle of a teen who barely understands how the world works. Naturally, my parents wanted me to become a doctor, but little did they know, I was concocting quite the silly little prank on them, as I had already began sinking more and more time online, absorbing video after video, and eventually thinking, yeah, this seems cool, maybe I could do it. As I was growing up, I was always impressed with the old WoW community and just how creative and dedicated they were. There was so much effort poured into silly little videos, with little promise of any benefits like popularity or income, but regardless, people were spending ungodly amounts of hours creating highly entertaining content. To me, that was a sign of a healthy community. People were so invested in the game and satisfied with its state that they were driven and inspired to spend their free time creating something in its honor. One type of content that stood out to me was the animations, or machinimas, and I really wanted to give it a go someday. Big mistake. I didn't know jack about making anything this complicated, yet alone use all the necessary softwares, but I kept at it. Watched guides, read forum posts, practiced, experimented, and eventually I managed to put together my very first WoW video. And I went ahead and posted it, and the very first comment I ever got... Ah, come on, bro. But past that, people seemed to enjoy it. And slowly but surely, I began refining my work to a point where I could be happy with it. Around that time, I had gotten the official World of Warcraft. I just remember sitting there and staring at the box with disbelief. And this was during, Warlords of Draenor. What a time to start, right? So, the general impression from the WoW community was that WoD was complete trash. Blissful times, am I right? But personally, I thought it was pretty nice. Leveling was cool, zones felt great, except the non-jungle. Fuck the non-jungle. And the storytelling was pretty trash, feeling like some weird spin-off / OVA episode. But it overall went pretty fine. And then it was time for Legion. Now, despite the more positive reception it got, this was probably the first time that I had ever played WoW. And after spamming the endgame slog of world quests and all that nonsense, a thought emerged in my head. Am I having fun with this? I even thought the story was a huge letdown, since this time it had to do with the Legion, a super prominent force in WoW's lore, who had a very disappointing ending. But nonetheless, I ignored the creeping dread just like any grown adult. And besides, it didn't matter either way. WoW is my game, you know? Even if I didn't find this expansion too fun, this is Blizzard we're talking about. The gaming Goliaths. They'll come in swinging with an even more amazing expansion that'll keep me severely invested in the game. Right? Yeah. We all know how that one went. Although BFA had to be one of the biggest abominations of all time, I have to say, the hype was there. Oh yeah, leading up to the launch, Blizzard did a good job of getting people excited. I remember everyone I knew looking forward to it, especially me as a PvP enjoyer, and how they advertised it as a good old faction war expansion, woo! After reaching the endgame, and experiencing whatever the hell that amalgamation was of dailies, weeklies, rep farms, chores, dumb borrowed power systems, this freaking guy, and the disappointing role of one of the most anticipated entities in WoW lore. He just like appeared, and 10 seconds later it was like... I couldn't exactly put my finger on it, but my doubts from Legion resurfaced. Little did I know, the stages of grief had already begun. At first, I was in denial. No way, I can't be bored of this. What was my game? Surely I'm probably growing out of it, perhaps. The problem has to be with me. With that, I began to play as if I'm having fun. I just forced myself. I began making myself binge a lot of WoW content, watch a lot of streams, videos. I'd make myself stay on top of my dailies and weeklies, ask other people to play with me. I was doing everything. Yet after weeks and months of trying, that feeling, that magic, just wasn't there anymore. And here came the second stage. Anger. I wasn't the only one who had realized something about WoW was off. This was the prime time that the community began to become a lot more aware of Blizzard's bullshit, as they were sucking the fun out of the game and making it into a dull Excel spreadsheet simulator. Not only that, but Blizzard's Activision was starting to show more and more. They began sounding much more corporate, greed-orientated, insulting their community's intelligence, and being downright sleazy. The way they addressed issues became vague and insincere. It became apparent to a lot of people in the WoW community that the company had shifted away from creating fun for players, but rather just creating revenue for their shareholders. Blizzard forgot their good old formula that if they produce something amazing that they love, then players will happily sink their time and money into it. It was clear that there were still many talented people working at Blizzard, but the company no longer seemed to be working in harmony. Some things they created in a vacuum would definitely be well made or look good, but in the grand scheme, they failed to bring cohesion to everything. Which of course, not to say that I'm putting blame on these workers. I'm putting blame on the management. To add more fuel to the fire, it just seemed like Blizzard was mixing themselves up into more new shit every week, causing that much more eyes to become open to their bullshit. Only this time their fuck-ups would begin to reach way further than just the WoW community and generating even more scrutiny from all over the internet. Personally, my thoughts reflected that of many. I began to feel betrayed. As a longtime WoW fan who held WoW and Blizzard in such high regard, I felt alienated and just disrespected. I'd made sure I'd always voice out my disdain with the state of Blizzard and the game at every corner. But just then, a light glittered in the steaming pile of shit as Blizzard announced World of Warcraft Classic. Blizzard listening to the community? Impossible. Everyone was suddenly hyped, and almost as if all the issues began to grow distant. But as with all things Blizzard do nowadays, I'd very soon learn that this was just another monkey's paw. Yet, at the time, I just wanted to try the version of the game that I could never afford as a kid. Vanilla. In retrospect, I can safely say that the first few months of Classic as it rolled out were probably one of the best gaming experiences I have ever had. And not only me, it absolutely blew up. It garnered so much attention from all over the world. It was truly like an explosion. But more importantly, playing and enjoying Classic proved me one thing. No, I was not growing out of WoW. The issue was not with me. I very much still enjoy WoW when it is a good game. Just like when it used to be once upon a time. Back when a cool piece of armor meant something special. When all that time spent traveling to your next destination felt like a small step towards something great. When the game could really immerse you into its setting. All these reasons, and many more, were what made WoW a household name after all, though this eye-opening experience really amplified my cynical view of Blizzard, as it became that much easier to compare the fruit of their labor of the past compared to that of the present. And the main difference that I noticed was the presence of high highs and low lows. Whether you and your group wiped to elite mobs or the time you prevailed against a ganker, old WoW was a roller coaster of happenings that could turn into memorable moments which you could reminisce about years later. While in new WoW, it tries to be a fairly stagnant line, nothing overly bad nor great happening. For me, I can safely say that in the past 5 or so years of playing retail, I had barely made any worthwhile memories. Meanwhile, 5 months into Classic launch, and I had already made so many, some of which inspired a number of my videos. Though I already have made a video where I talk about my experiences with Classic specifically. During it, my channel really began to gain momentum and grow. And apart from practicing my creativity, my videos also became an outlet to vent my frustrations. Sometimes the shit Blizzard would do would be so unbelievable that it would be more unhinged than the parody scripts I'd put together. I didn't want to just be in Blizzard's good boy list. If they were doing good, I'd be singing their praises. But if they were doing shit, I didn't want to pull any punches, and I wanted to make sure people know. Though my content surely brought in a lot of people to try WoW again, or for the first time, I still wanted to bring attention to some of its issues. Time went on and my love for WoW and Blizzard quickly declined, though now it was finally time to move on from BFA and go to the next big expansion. Would Blizzard take this opportunity to actually redeem themselves, at least with World of Warcraft retail? Would they actually acknowledge their fuck-ups and consider the community's woes? Would they take a good look at themselves and see how they can reclaim their status to some degree? I can't lie. Despite my increasingly negative opinion of WoW, I had a small part of me still quietly rooting for the new expansion at the back of my mind, hoping for anything that would show signs of progress once more. And that expansion was of course Shadowlands. It came out, I played it for a few weeks to a month, I just stopped whatever bullshit I was doing in the maw, and just stared at my monitor. And at that moment, almost as if a string snapped in my head. Hope was dead. I turned it off, cancelled my subscription, and that was it. Like leaving a toxic relationship. That was now around almost 4 years ago, and ever since then, I've been doing my own little boycott on Blizzard, as I no longer believed they deserved any of my money. During all my years with WoW, I had times when I take breaks from the game, but at the back of my mind I always knew I'd be back. But not this time, and I have never given a single fuck for the new releases from then on. Classic, even though an already complete 20-year-old game, Blizzard still found a way to mess it up or drop the ball. Net worth check? Yeah, these guys couldn't be asked to hire one janitor on minimum wage to quickly cover with GM privileges over the Hillsbrad area near Tarren Mill with the Bears, where at least At all times, there were 7 bots farming them, or any other obvious areas for that matter. But hey, the bots pay a monthly sub, right? Why bother? And if you manage to get on their bad side, they could just mass report you and get you punished by Blizzard's jank-ass system. Tickets were pending for months, dungeon boosting and GDKP runs absolutely obliterated the PvE and social scene, and Blizzard only half addressed GDKP years later when it didn't matter nearly as much. And they added shit like the level boost, which defeats one of the main purposes of Classic, regardless of what you may think about it. It's reached the point where I can't even trust them to re-release decade-old games, because I know they'll still somehow find a way to fuck it up. And the newer expansions? More shallow and does slop. I did give Dragonflight a brief try, as Blizzard gave me a free copy, but even then I didn't find any interest in it. So much so that I couldn't even be bothered to try and make it seem interesting through videos. But Graham, it's so much better than BFA and Shadowlands! Wow, what a grand achievement. Can we get a round of applause? Yeah, as if that's a high bar. Dragfair? Cool, but they look incredibly lazy, leading many to believe they just reused the rigs of old models. Which, I mean, and then you just reuse the Blood Elf and human models for their Visage form? And they can't even have equipped armor visible while in Dragfair form? Why? Net worth check! Freaking Naga couldn't be a thing cause they couldn't wear pants. Meanwhile, fans online make better customization options for free, practically begging Blizzard to use them and implement them. And don't get me started on the story writing. Look, I don't think WoW story was always great. But it used to be more of this nice ambient thing that you could pursue if you wanted to add more context to the world you immersed yourself in. Now it's proudly shoveled down your throat whether you like it or not with all of the fancy cinematics. This works! If your story is good. You mean to tell me someone sat down and wrote the jailer, this guy, and thought, oh my, this bald fella is surely going to be the players' new favorite. You for real? It basically went like this. The one behind Arthas and the events of Warcraft 3?
Silvo the Jailer.
The one behind why Sylvanas turned so shit?
Silvo the Jailer.
The reason you were born?
That's right. Silvo the Jailer.
The Jailer played us all like pawns and succeeded at his master plan by making a bunch of players quit the fucking game. Truly a frighteningly effective villain.
You'll meet memorable characters along the way.
This was meant to be the conclusion to the whole Warcraft saga leading up to then?
Eternity's End serves as the final chapter of one book of the Warcraft saga.
And what, War Within? What? Another fucking dwarf? Now don't get me wrong, I'm very lenient when it comes to video games. I'll tolerate greedy cash shops, even with pay to win, and questionable practices by the company, if at least I'm having fun with their game. But WoW? I'd be even more lenient towards it, my once favorite game of all time. With WoW and Blizzard, it wasn't just one or two big things that killed my love for them, and instead, it was a death of 1,000 cuts. So many problems upon problems that you'd even forget what your initial concerns with the game were, because they'd be buried under a new layer of shit to worry about every other week. For months after I quit, I just felt depressed. I didn't want to play anything, and I wasn't feeling excited to work on much. It was funny, I was a WoW content creator who didn't even want to think about WoW. But I kept at it, as best as I could, because I always enjoyed entertaining you guys. And I wanted you, and Blizzard, to know that I didn't forget. I didn't forget the endless store and 6-month sub-mounts in an already pay-to-play subscription-based game that could have been instead attainable through in-game means. Same with the greed, the vagueness, the mistreatment of employees. Hypocrisies like the WoW token. Letting players buy game time with gold is great, but then allowing them to pay real money for it and then sell it for gold, what is that? So you can't buy gold from shady websites, but it's fine if you do it officially from Blizzard, because it pays them. And where are the TBC and RAF classic servers? Oh, that's right, TBC is coming back soon. It just got removed for a bit. It just wasn't big enough for the shareholders to keep around, right? A lot better to remove it, bring it back when people miss it a bit, and BAM! Easy money. And the players have to level through it again, suckers. Same with RAF next to, huh? No argument besides greed. Even nerds in their mother's basements can keep servers up for a longer time with private servers. We hear you loud and clear. A phrase burned into my brain, almost as if meant in a mocking manner, only for Blizzard to then proceed to not listen and do their own dumb shit. We are taking the flavor out of talent trees and making them basic. That's stupid. don't. Yeah, we're doing it. We are pleased to announce that we're going back to the style of the old talent tree. Bravo,
Oh my
Blizzard,
god, they're
bravo.
listening!
We are removing PvP vendors. Why? Don't. It's done. We are pleased to announce that we are bringing back PvP vendors.
How do they
Wow,
keep
they're
those
just so smart.
foresight?
We are removing class sets. Don't. Done. We are proud to announce that class sets are back.
They do this.
We are committed to working with the community to ensure Shadowlands meets expectations on launch. Yeah, we think you should change the covenants a bit there, but no, I think we know better. We're proud to announce that we are making changes to Covenant. Blizzard are doing it
I
again.
don't see the haters.
We're making Overwatch 5v5, but 6v6 is okay. Too late. We're pleased to announce we're bringing back 6v6. And this is how I want to finally put it in a nice little nutshell. Fuck Blizzard. At the end of the day, WoW is still an alright MMO. One of the best even. But it's not hard when there's barely any competition to say that. If you're enjoying it now, good for you. But they lost me. And I'm sure many can relate. In a perfect world, I'd keep on making WoW videos happily and excitedly looking forward to the new expansions. But not so lucky, I guess. I lost my trust in them. I didn't wake up one day hating WoW. For me, this all started out of my sheer love for the game and company. After all, I've spent most of my life with them, and every time I've been critical about it is because I've cared enough. Now, this video isn't some announcement that I'm fully done with WoW videos forever, and this is a Dota 2 channel now only. I'm just some guy on the internet. I can't plan that far ahead. It most likely just means at some point I may experiment with some other things I find interesting. Regardless, if you too are a victim of WoW trauma, feel free to join the Discord. Interacting with my community has definitely been the most positive constant these last few years, and I'd be happy for you to join the mental asylum. We have a seat saved for you.
Oh, you're the wrong race? No invite. You're not a specific class/spec? No invite. Red Paladin?